Welcome, everyone. This is the Unstated Meeting of Virginia Research Lodge, number 1777, out of Highland Springs, Virginia. My name is Chris Douglas. I'm our senior warden and your host for this Zoom meeting. And unfortunately, I will be your speaker for the day, so I hope that doesn't set anyone off. I'll do my best talking about the Grange Ritual. The Grange Ritual, a Masonic Harvest. This was originally presented by Douglas L. Jordan, who is a member of Virginia Research Lodge, on June 23rd, 2001. We're all familiar with the idea that a ritual is the characteristic that distinguishes Masonry from other fraternal and social orders. Many of us are also aware that these other orders have frequently adopted rituals that contain strong echoes of the ideas and even the expressions and phrases of Masonic ritual. My purpose here is to illustrate the influence of Masonry and the Masonic ritual on one of these organizations, the Patrons of Husbandry, better known as the Grange. We tend to listen to the lessons of Masonry and forget that although our heritage caused the tools and implements of architecture to be selected to imprint upon the mind wise and serious truths, other implements and symbols may have been chosen. In choosing the farmer's implements and building on the farmer's experience, Oliver Hudson Kelley presented the same lessons using much of the same language, phrases, and similes as we find in the Masonic ritual, with the added benefit that the members were daily reminded of the lessons as they went about their work. My primary sources are two editions of the Manual of Subordinate Granges of the Patrons of Husbandry. The 10th edition was adopted and issued by the National Grange in 1923, while the 18th edition was published in 1940. In addition, I have visited the numerous websites that are maintained by the national, state, and subordinate Granges to see what the order is doing today. I've also consulted a number of secondary sources on the history of the Grange in order to provide a proper background on the order. These are listed in the bibliography. Following the war between the states, the American farmer, particularly in the South and Midwest, was entering a period of hard times. The war had brought high prices for farm goods, but it was now over. Prices had fallen, but costs had not. Oliver Hudson Kelley, a Minnesota farmer and Mason, was a clerk in the Bureau of Agriculture. He was assigned in 1886 to investigate rural conditions in the South and West. Kelley was born in Boston in 1826 and became a farmer on the Minnesota frontier in 1846. In 1849, he was the first person to be brought to light in the Minnesota Territory, and he gained a reputation as a Masonic ritualist. In 1866, the Bureau of Agriculture hired him as an investigator to journey through the South to collect data on Southern farms and farming. As a Northerner in the post-war South, he found his reception as a Mason was much friendlier than his reception as a farmer. This led him to the idea that a fraternal organization, having secret rituals, signs, and passwords like Masonry, could help alleviate rural isolation, apathy, and ignorance. It was to be an organization to educate and elevate the American farmer. Returning to Washington in December 1866, he presented his idea to John R. Thompson and William M. Ireland, two government workers who were also active Masons and proficient ritualists. Together with Reverend Aaron B. Grosh, who was an Episcopal minister and author of the Oddfellows Improved Manual, they wrote the Grange Ritual. In December 1867, in Washington, D.C., these four, along with three others, organized the National Grange of the Patrons of Husbandry. Page Smith, author of The Rise of Industrial America, summarized the Grange organization as follows. Modeled on the Masonic order, there were 7 degrees and 4 categories: laborer, cultivator, harvester, and husbandman. The categories for women were maid, shepherdess, gleaner, and matron. The pomona, or hope degree, is the 5th stage for masters. Patrons of the 6th degree made up the National Council. The final degree is that of Demeter, faith. The preamble of the Constitution of the Patrons reads, "The soul is the source from which we derive all that constitutes wealth." Charles M. Gardner in The Grange, Friend of the Farmer states, "One needs only to hold membership in both these fraternal organizations to note similarities in ritualistic expression, and it's probably no exaggeration to assert that if there had been no Masonry, there might be no Grange today." Kelley was a man with a mission, and that mission carried him up and down the land, east, west, and south, until by 1874, local chapters counted 1.5 million members. This was the Grange's high point. The farmers used their organization to unite against the railroad and grain elevator monopolies and passed the so-called Grange laws in several of the Midwestern states. After a Supreme Court decision, these laws established the right of the state and the federal governments to regulate certain monopoly businesses. Thereafter, the Grange slowly faded. By 1899, membership was down to 107,000. But it then grew again to some 850,000 in 1970, mostly located in New York and northern Pennsylvania and on the West Coast. In this period, it caused Congress to enact the laws provided for rural electrification and rural free delivery. Today, state Granges are active in 36 states and the District of Columbia. Washington State claims the largest membership with 50,000 members in 373 subordinate Granges. The Grange program continues to focus on the needs of the farmer and the rural population, including lobbying for specific bills and providing insurance, but it is broadened to include assistance to the deaf and a program of youth activities. The Grange Ritual was published in several parts. The manual for subordinate Granges is the only part I have in my possession. Being published in a copyrighted book, it contains no secret work. It does refer to private instructions and the UW, or unwritten work, which from the context are the ciphered, secret, and unwritten work. In addition, rituals exist for the Pomona, or county, state, and national Granges. In describing the layout of a Grange hall, I will use the terms north, south, east, and west since the present audience well understands the references. However, these terms are not used by the Grange. I've also copied diagrams from each of the rituals to help you visualize the proceedings. The room is laid out much like a Masonic lodge. An altar is located 1/3 of the way from east toward the west, and a cloth or mat is placed midway between the west and the altar to mark the location for members to stand while addressing the overseer in the west. In the east of the hall, there is a stage on which sit the three graces, Ceres, Pomona, and Flora, goddesses presiding over cereals, fruits, and flowers. Ceres, as the goddess of cereals, is in the center of the trio. No one is permitted to pass between Ceres and the altar except when an officer in the performance of his or her duty. The master sits at a desk in the southeast. On his desk is a box containing miniatures of the implements or working tools of the farmer. Only those implements appropriate to the current and preceding degrees are displayed. To the right of his desk is the American flag. The chaplain is seated in the south. In the west is the overseer with the assistant steward, AS, seated in front and toward the south, and the lady assistant steward, LAS, seated in front and toward the north, similar to the placing of the junior deacon and marshal in a Virginia Masonic lodge. The steward is stationed in the northwest at the door of the anteroom. In the anteroom, the gatekeeper stands guard with his gatekeeper's staff, 5 feet long and surmounted by an owl. The treasurer and secretary sit at desks in the northeast, while the lecturer sits in the north. In the 1923 installation ritual, only the three graces and the LAS are noted as being sisters. However, the 1940 ritual allows for installing women in all offices. This acceptance of women and also youth as full members made the Grange very much a family organization, and I note that a number of ladies are state masters. The steward and his assistants carry staves of office. These are 6 feet long and black. The steward's is a spud, while the assistant steward's is a pruning hook, and the lady assistant steward is a shepherd's crook. So much for the general layout. Let us turn now to the words of the ritual. I will not spend time commenting on them, since the similarities would be obvious to you as they are to me. I'll present most of the ritual for opening and closing the Grange and some excerpts from significant parts of the degrees. In this, I'll be assisted by several of the officers who have been giving scripts to aid them. So I guess when this was presented, he had several people, officers in the lodge, who would help him read the ritual. I'm going to take a pause. That was about 10 minutes. I would like, if there's any questions about the part I've already covered, in the second section, I'm going to cover the ritual. So any questions on anything we've done so far?
Just want to show you, I have a very old book in my library. I got it at a book sale one time, The Granger Movement. The author is Salon Justice Buck. This was published in 1913. And the author observed that as the book was about to go to press, he received word that Oliver Hudson Kelley had just passed away in Washington, D.C. So that was quite interesting.
Oh my. All right. Any questions or comments before I continue with the ritual portion? Okie doke. All right, as I like to thank everyone for coming today. Please like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. We have a new channel. So y'all please visit the new channel. I'm going to promote it on Facebook and get people to sign up over there. And we're going to be migrating all of our videos over to the new channel as soon as we can. We're also going to be going to other social media platforms such as Instagram and so forth. And I'll be talking about that more on Facebook. So we're trying to push our social media presence out there and expand beyond Facebook and Twitter and trying to reach a lot of your audience. And we're going to be changing up how we do videos and trying to have more videos that are shorter to attract more interest on YouTube and Instagram and so forth. So hopefully we'll try and get more interest going and maybe get more people coming to these meetings if we're reaching out to more people. So again, brothers, thank you all for attending, and you all have a great day.
Thank you.